Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley pulled in more than 11 million in her first 6 weeks on the trail, her campaign announced on Wednesday. The eight-figure haul comes from 70,000 donations, including 67,000 small dollar donations, those totaling 200 or less, her campaign said. The 11 million sum overshadows the roughly 9.5 million former President Trump raised in the first quarter since announcing his latest bid for the 2024 Republican presidential nod. Voters and donors are clearly responding to Nikki's conservative message and her call for a new generation of leadership to make America strong and proud. Betsy Anke, Haley's campaign manager, said in a statement. As Nikki said in her announcement speech in Charleston on February 15th, "I've been underestimated before. That's always fun." Since announcing her campaign in February, Haley has embarked on an aggressive travel schedule that has taken her through key early voting states. In the first half of April, she's set to swing through several stops in Iowa, which holds the first presidential caucus. Her campaign also noted that she's held 19 grassroots events in New Hampshire, which holds the first Republican presidential primary. Haley has the resume of a viable presidential contender. She was elected to 2 terms governor of South Carolina before serving as Trump's United Nations ambassador for nearly 2 years. After leaving that post, she founded a group to boost GOP candidates up and down the ballot. Yet she still faces some clear obstacles in her bid for the GOP's 2024 nomination. Polling shows Trump as the top candidate for the presidential nod, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis trails in second place. Few surveys show Haley cracking double-digit support. Still, she sought to cast herself as a new generation of leadership within the GOP, arguing that Republicans need a change after losing the popular vote in 7 out of the last 8 presidential elections. Before we get into the rest of the article, I was going to say that the person who probably had my favorite response to Haley's comments about Republicans losing the popular vote in the last 7 out of 8 presidential elections was probably David Pakman, because he said maybe get some better policies and support things that people actually are in favor of. And sure enough, I would say that Haley's positions are so identical to Trump that even if she became the nominee, I am absolutely certain she would lose the popular vote to Biden or whoever the Democratic candidate is. You can't be against gay marriage and just LGBT people and talk about wanting to cut Medicaid and Social Security, or have a record of trying to do that, and expect to win the popular vote. It's something that I really don't understand why these people don't get that. And it's funny that she tries to pretend that she's actually going to have a chance of winning it. Now, this actually really surprises me. I did not expect her to ever out fundraise Trump. That is a big, huge blow to him. And I think what we're seeing here is that this election, when he got indicted earlier this week, it turned into uncharted territory where a lot of people, voters and some of those big dollar donors, are not entirely sure if he's going to make it. And they really want to win the White House back next year. So instead of trying to hold on to this guy that is very possibly going to get, which I said before, I don't personally believe he'll go to jail, but just like there's potential very heavy legal entanglements that Trump could be in for the next year or even longer. And some voters and especially a lot of those GOP donors are not receptive to that and are looking for alternatives. And I said before that's why you could kind of see the writing on the wall. I did this story, wasn't watching many people, but it was about how these like 3 big dollar members of it's some pro-Israel group. They had switched to supporting Haley, or they were like announcing their endorsement of her. And I was surprised by that, because I said it's really shocking that they would pick her over the president that was the one who moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and declared Jerusalem. It was weird that they would pick her over the president that did all of these pro-Israel type things, so to speak. It was, best friends with Netanyahu. But you're seeing here a lot of voters who are turned off by what's happening with the indictment. And that's why she's getting this little surge of fundraising support. Now, does it actually improve her chances of winning? I don't know, because I said before the Trump party is consolidated into about maybe three groups of voters. The ones who are Trump no matter what, and we don't know how they would react if Trump is no longer in the race, and it doesn't look like he's going to get out, so they'll be with him until the end. The group who like Trump but they're more receptive to maybe going with somebody else, I'd say that's like 5-10% of the electorate. And then the I'm done with Trump, can we move on group, which is an even smaller amount. It's like 3 or 4%, which shows why in a lot of polls she's not been able to crack double digits, because there's such a small, tiny segment of the party that wants this supposed new generation of leadership that she claims she's going to implement, even though it's actually more of the same old crap, just with a person that's 20 years younger than the last Republican president. So it's it's just been such a, because I said before, like, her campaign was going nowhere, and I stand by that. She's still polling at 5%, 6%, 3%, but this is corporate America, and we have our corporate elections where the person who raises the most money usually wins. So her out fundraising him, even if it's just by like what 2 million, is an important development. It is something that if I'm looking at this from her perspective, I would be happy about. Even though I've said before, I don't understand why anybody would donate to Trump, because if he's so rich, this billionaire, and fundraising, raising the funds for his own campaign with his own money, I don't understand why he needs your support. But whatever, people, it's already been said before that he probably doesn't have as much money as he claims he does. And I'm not here to make fun of him for that, but it's just all this excessive bragging over something you don't have is always comical to me. In case of DeSantis, and I've said this before, I would prefer if he didn't get in the, he is going to get in the race. I have no doubt about that. But if he didn't get in the race, that would put this race even, I know I said race twice, even further on its head, because now you have an indicted Trump and the person who's consistently polling in second place, however low it may be. Sometimes he's 5 points down, 10 points, 20 points, not getting in. Then you'll see that other group of supporters fractured and possibly going to either Haley or Hutchinson or whatever the other two people are. I don't think they have any. Like, I think she has the third best chance of winning this, which that makes it sound like it's a lot easier for her than it's actually going to be. Because when you say third, it's like, oh, it's just two people. It's like, yeah, but one person is polling at 40% and the other one's at 20%. And you're at 5%. But her campaign manager, I didn't even know who her campaign manager was before reading this article. Um, Said voters and donors are clearly responding to her conservative message. No, they're not. What they're responding to is the possibility of Trump going to jail, which I don't think he will, but again, still something could happen. DeSantis not really being that charismatic of a candidate in general. I don't care what anybody says. And a lot of her conservative message is based around vague terms. And if there's any clarity, it's on things that don't matter. Oh, I want term limits. Okay, what, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years? No explanation. Oh, we need let me be clear. We need mental competency tests on politicians over 75. Okay, ageist much, but whatever. How's this help anyone who's struggling financially? Oh, we need to stop the spending in D.C. Uh, and we need to change the retirement age. Okay, what are you going to change? Are you going to make it higher, lower? You make it higher, you're going to piss people off. You probably do want to make it higher. That's why you don't say if you're going to make that you're going to make it lower. You don't say one way or the other. That's why I said, like, a lot of her positions that are actually based on issues are purposely vague so that she doesn't piss off people who will not support her less popular positions. I mean, and Trump does the same thing. Well, it's more lies in his case, like, saying, oh, we should not cut Social Security or Medicare. And then you go and look at his budget proposals, and each one of them was proposing to cut Social Security and Medicare. Which, hey, he's not the first one to try doing that, but it's just like there's so much dishonesty from these people. It's really comedic. So I said before, I think out of this whole group, that includes Trump and DeSantis, although I think maybe Hutchinson's kind of bad because I don't know that much about him. Well, and the things I do know are kind of like bland. I think out of this whole group, she's the one who has the highest chance of actually winning a general election. And I said before, that's based around two things. One, you have voters who will look at her and on appearance alone be like, oh yes, this is a new generation female and you're young or whatever. And the other part of it is that she's better at masking crazy than either Trump or DeSantis are. She's not really tied to the anti-vax stuff as both of them are. Um, and she really wasn't one of the main ones that was going, the election was stolen, even though I have no proof. So I think she's just as, right wing and extremist as the two of those candidates are, but she is better at masking her extremism in a general election. So I think if she won the nomination, she'd be the hardest to beat. But like I said, I don't even think she's going to be able to win the primary, because if Haley was serious, she would go after Trump for trying to cut Medicare and Social Security. She would go after him for, again, January 6th. And she would say, hey, look, I like most of what he did in office, but I don't support trying to overturn an election that could have gotten many of our people killed, whether it's our politicians or our various respectable capital, because, a lot of right wingers love police. So really, the ways in which she should attack him, she would have, I think, would be doing much, because you have to accept, I am running against this, within the party anyway, very popular president, so it's me versus them, and I've got to make the case why I'm better. But instead of directly confronting this elephant in the room, she tries to sidestep it. I don't kick sideways, as she tried to say. So for that reason, although the fundraising is very good, if you're looking at this from her position, the fact that it's to a candidate who's too scared to directly confront her main competitor dismisses the actuality, the reality of it even mattering. So she's still not going to win, and it's all based around just cowardice.